welcome back to the AfriCanadian Resource Center. And as you know, we come to you every evening at 6 p.m. and tonight is no different. And we'll be talking to a couple of international students today. One who have just graduated, the other who is still going through the education. And then, of course, we want to talk about the work that they're doing in the community, but also the challenge of going to school through COVID-19. These two individuals are all international students from Africa, so we're going to be looking at some of the data on the African students that are here, but also the challenges that they face throughout their experience here in Canada. So we really look forward to having sessions, then also to learn more about what they're doing in the community. As we today we'll be looking at international students living and studying in Canada. And one of the things that I found out through some of the brief look at in terms of research is the numbers of people that are studying in Canada that are international students. For example, it says as a top destination globally, Canada is hosting close to 400,000 international students, and it says in recent years with up to 65% of all international students in Canada originating from top 5 countries. These are like China, India, South Korea, France, Vietnam. They're saying that in 2017, Vancouver and Montreal hosted half of all international students. Obviously, this is a huge number when you think of Canada being, we have more than 10 different territories and provinces. To have half of those numbers being in Vancouver and Toronto, Montreal, that shows you the attraction that exists here. But also that more students are coming from places like Vietnam and Bangkok. This is in more recent years. The other thing that I found out that I think is very, I don't know if it's saddening, but it's definitely something that needs to improve, is the fact that about 6% of international students are from the sub-Saharan Africa. Obviously, as a continent, Africa has over 1 billion people. How are we only able to bring 6% of students into Canada? This is definitely a big issue. They say that the largest of these groups are from Nigeria, and which is the 8th most worldwide, and Egypt at 26th. So obviously that's a good number for Nigerians to be able to bring as many students here as they are able to at the 8th spot. And it says that they come to university programs specifically, and they say that Nigerian students reach the top 5 in terms of country of origin, and which speaks to the highest education attainment for Nigerians nationals. This is good for Nigerians, but it's still terrible for the continent overall, because if we are only able to bring 6% of students from Africa compared to the rest of, if we bring 400,000 students and only 6% are Africans, and we know the level of education in Canada is amongst the highest across the world. And also, not only that, it's also the idea of experience and networking. I think this is something that we need to look at, and it's definitely a huge issue for us as Africans. Of course, we're talking about economic development, and of course, another thing they're mentioning is that with room to grow, 3 out of 4 African students were denied study permit, according to the IRCC. Says that there are views that the applications from Nigeria have been particularly colored by the increased rate of pending asylum claims by Nigerians in Canada, and they're saying that now the highest for any nationals over the past few years. Obviously, that's something, I guess, for the government of Canada, where they look at it and say, if we bring people in as students, they tend to stay, they don't go back. But this is for one community, Nigeria. What about the rest of us? Because I know for Rwandans, for other communities, a lot of people just want to come and get the education and go back and serve their countries. So you cannot pull a whole umbrella on everybody and say, you know what, because one community comes and stays and doesn't want to go back, we should do the same thing for everybody. It's definitely an issue, probably why that number is at 6%. And we need to change that. We need to look at it. And for us as an organization, that's where we come in to advocate for our people, for our communities. Because if we are trying to be a part of this Canadian experience, then we should also have a pool of people from our communities back home that come and exchange and learn and take back some of what we come here to learn. So yeah, I think this is a big issue. And they're saying that matching that trend, rejections of Nigerian applicants have grown from 55 in 2013 to 81 in 2018. 81% of rejections, meaning, I mean, okay, this is huge. So that definitely explains why we are having 6% of applicants coming from sub-Saharan Africa, because specifically say sub-Saharan Africa, it means that there is that level of barriers between us and Canada, between our people coming to study in Canada and the rest of the world. So yeah, something to talk about, something to look at. I wanted to bring you this tonight because tonight we're talking to international students, one based out of York University, the other from Toronto University. And I thought it was good to sort of give you a bit of a background on what they experience, or at least what are the numbers for international students here in Canada. So with that, let's go on with the rest of the program.
African rebirth. In the history of mankind, no society has progressed to the highest form of development and civilization without peace, unity, and generational prosperity. Therefore, African Rebirth is an organization aimed to build and inspire young African leaders with a mindset and perception of peace, unity, and shared prosperity. Together for a new Africa, filled with peace, united people, and prosperous societies.
Welcome back and thank you. So as we were talking about in that research, we looked at the international students here in Canada. One of the things that I looked at that I wanted to highlight was that number, 6%. 6% of all international students here in Canada are only 6% is the sub-Saharan Africa. And then looking at the numbers, of course, you know that that's a minimum number compared to the numbers of Africans that are trying to apply, but also numbers of Africans in terms of percentage globally. So that's something we definitely have to look at as Canadians, and for sure us as African Canadians, for us as the Rwandan Canadian Healing Center, the AfriCanadian Resource Center, something to definitely look at in terms of advocacy, but also looking at the policies that leads to this kind of, one, definite discrimination, but also what are other challenges, because they are there, like in terms of looking at the peace on Nigeria and the people who come here and choose to seek asylum instead of going back. Those are things that we need to look at. Obviously, part of it is the challenges in Africa, economic challenges, but still, we need to be able to bridge that gap. And that's where I probably would begin with our next guest, Mr. Enoch Tumwishime. You're going to have to forgive me on your name again. Mr. Enoch, how are you?
I'm good, Kizito. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So thank you for joining us. Like I was just saying, what do you think about, maybe let's first introduce yourself. Who is Enoch? We've met you before in this program, but we were talking about the work in the Rwandan community. We never got a chance to actually talk to you about the work that you're doing and your education here in Canada as an international student. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Kizito. My name is Enoch Tumwine. I'm an international student. From I get a bit of conflict to say where I'm from. More special, I'm from. I relate myself from 3 countries, but Uganda,
Okay,
Rwanda.
Let people know that you're in. What was that? East African? What was the?
What?
I'll let you just finish your point. I was trying to remember what you said to us before, where you want to sort of be known as.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was saying that I get conflict where to say where I come from. Most I am very proud East African, but for now I am from Rwanda, and I'm a political science student, and in my final year.
Okay, so maybe tell us more. You're from Rwanda, but I know you definitely grew up in Uganda. What other parts of Africa have you been in before you came to study in Canada?
Oh yeah, East Africa for sure. East African region. I've not been to West Africa, but I've been at least to East African region.
What parts? What countries?
I've been to Burundi. I've grown up in Burundi too. I've been to Kenya. I've been to Tanzania too. So, and I have friends all over. So it means like it's to me, East Africa is a village. I don't see East Africa in countries. I usually see East Africa as a region. And that's what actually what I do now relates to maybe relates to my background per se, is to have that feeling of a Pan-African view, because if it is it benefits in all ways. If it is doing business, you expand market. You have entrepreneurs across. You can sell your commodities across East Africa. So that's what I identify myself with, and those are the countries I've been to. If I
And
came to
so,
Canada.
yeah, and okay, so and maybe let's talk a little bit about Pan-Africanism. What is your view when it
Yeah.
comes to Pan-Africa? Because for me, I look at the movement from its birth. When we want to talk about
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey and obviously the
Mm.
revolution that took place that led to the independence of many countries in Africa. But for me,
Mm.
when I look at the independence that we gained from those back in the 60s and 50s, 60s and on and so forth, I feel like we've taken
Yeah.
steps back instead of going forward in terms of taking ownership of our own continent. What is your view
Yeah.
of Pan-African and how far I guess do we need to go to be truly free as African nations or as a continent?
That's $1 trillion question. Very good question. Yeah. So Pan African, for me, how I define Pan Africans. I define Pan Africans. I think for me now, a Pan African is a person who seeks peace, a person who seeks unity, and a person who seeks prosperity. Why do I say that? When you look at the history of the world, how the world has evolved over time, and how the world has progressed over time, there is no single history of the world, of the developed countries or developed nations or developed empires that has progressed without peace, without social cohesion and prosperity. And peace like relating to African continent, we've gone through many wars, but I might say that even when you look at the historical perspective across the world, Europe itself went through many wars, many wars, many revolutions, and many. But they reached a time and paused, like we have to find a way to forge peace for prosperity. So I think when you're talking about, I'm from East African region. When you look at only the East African region, we've gone through many wars. We've gone through many conflicts. There are many refugee crises that has been, as a result of insecurity in our countries. Take an example. I would do an example of Burundi and Rwanda, the countries I'm so familiar with. When you analyze the 1994 genocide, how it came into play, there are a series of events. When you look at Burundi, so we need peace. We need peace, first of all, to secure that business that might be going, to secure that talent to nurture that talent that people might have. So we need peace. So a real Pan-African to me is not, it's not, speaking about like anti-colonial sentiments only. I think a Pan-African now in this era is a person who seeks peace, a person who seeks unity and prosperity. And when you analyze the causes of conflicts that have been going on, number one tops of all reasons. Number one is ethnic tensions, ethnic violence. People need to see, and that's why unity comes in. People need to learn to translate from their few individual tribal sentiment and say big picture. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's to
appreciate
me how
that
I
because
say.
yeah, as you were answering that, I thought about in terms of prosperity, in terms of like creating and building nations. I think many people who are more innovative, many people who are creative, dwell
Yeah.
in peace. Like honestly, you will never find people in terms of innovation who are able to do so in times of
Yeah.
fear. For like most of obviously the survival instinct kicks in, and I feel like for many
Yeah.
of Africans, we've been through survival instincts for the last almost, I don't know, 500 years, and that's, I think, the main issue that we have in terms of development. Because how can you develop, how can you innovate when you're busy worried about your meal today, or whether you're gonna even be
Absolutely.
alive tomorrow? And so I definitely
Yeah.
agree with you in terms of having the peace, the unit, in order to get to prosperity. Prosperity is a progress, it's a process, but
Absolutely.
I think at least you
Yes.
can get to peace and unit in
Yeah.
terms of the strategy and things like that. So I
For sure.
think if that's what Pan African means. Please count me in. I've just had an issue with that movement in terms of what's achieved, other than just
Yeah.
saying we are a Pan African movement, and then at the end of the day, look at some of the achievements we've had, and look at some of it, we're going backwards. We're sort of signing deals with Europeans, and that puts us back under them. To me, that's sort of a failure from what we were trying to achieve
Yes.
from the original Gavi's movement.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right,
Absolutely. And
so go ahead.
no, no, you go ahead. I was just going to say something like you can't you can't achieve prosperity without unity, without and like just you said, peace is not only the absence of war. You know, it's a lot of things. It's economic security. It's a job security. It's if I drive from here to there, am I secure? You know, something like that. So it's a lot of questions that come into play. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you obviously you are an international student. You're here at Toronto University, right here in the center of
Yeah.
Toronto. What's the experience been like for you during this pandemic? For you, what is the experience? And not just, I'm not asking just for you, but for the people, for young people you come across who are international students like yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. My experience in general, has been good. In general, has been good. On a personal level, it has been wonderful. Since I came for school up to here, I think I've made progress in my side for knowledge or increasing my network and coming to a big city like Toronto. Definitely, a lot of things coming through, a lot of opportunities because you have a lot of events to attend, people to meet from different backgrounds. So personal has been good for me. Now, speaking of the new normal, the new normal. So yeah, they definitely like an international student. One, the COVID pandemic. One, it restricted the movement, and international students are always on the move. This is fall. Summer is just been like 2 weeks back. So we are supposed, personally, I was supposed to go home, but I did not go home due to travel restrictions. So that way, it affected many international students who have been, at least like me, every year I go home, every summer I go home. But like people who have been waiting to go home in a long time, and they've been planning to go home in this, before Corona came. So people definitely miss that family ties, that family touch, and feeling that social cohesion when you go back to your country. So that
Okay.
one, number one, people missed home. Number two is the change in education system on how we lectures are delivered. Now everything is online, and many people face challenges of internet connectivity. Not all people have access to internet. Not all people have access to laptops, good laptops. Not everything like that. But before, you could come to lectures and meet your prof and something like that. I was schedule an appointment, like one on one. But today, everything has changed, is online. So people don't have like enough internet, capacity to go through all those courses.
Mm.
It's a big problem, and people who need special attention and special care. who are international students, probably who don't have like a structure, structures to help them and navigate through that, like the government. The school can try, but the school cannot try that much if the government doesn't come in. So those people with, disabilities, some to do either not taking, it's really very hard for them. So I find that it has been a difficult time, but nevertheless, I also like the resilience that people have coped up, and people have, just like you're not the only one facing the problem. It's a global pandemic, so you learn and cope up, and move ahead. But those are the three things that have been being a challenge to
Yeah, and
to
for us,
cycle
we
friends.
didn't. Yeah, so go ahead.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, we really want to have that understanding because I think we've been covering different communities and leaders in the community, but we also want to
Yeah.
highlight what international students are going through. My next guest, we talked about all of these challenges in terms of obviously the economical challenges and all those things. So we want to make sure that that's something that we can cover. But before I let you go, I want to go back to the main point, which is your organization, the African Rebirth. What are you looking,
Yeah.
and try to be brief on this, what are you trying to do, what are you looking to do with that organization going forward? What kind of services are you offering that people want to know and want to be able to reach out to you?
Good question. African Rebirth, just like like sets like its mission. Number one is the vision is to defy mediocrity and create a new movement of African leaders who seek peace, who seek unity and shared prosperity. So number one, we want to instill the mindset like you have to achieve this, but this is the way to go through. Even the wars I was speaking about in just a few minutes ago, most people participating in wars are not they are not people 70s, 80s, they're young people. So once you transform the mind, the problem is ideological. It's not economic, it's ideological. So once you transform the ideology of young people who seek solutions rather than problems, who seek, ways to be better. To be better is not to go to war or to go to tension, conflicts, and society. It's to have a big picture. You raise a new breed of young people who think a big picture beyond their country's borders. Like, for example, Rwanda is a small country, Burundi is a small country, Uganda is a small country. But when you have a new generation of people who think beyond their small countries or their small tribes or their small identities, people need to celebrate the big identity of an African, not just the tribe where you come from. That's a mindset we want to be. People who think big, people who think generational, and people who think real solution. And that's what we offer. We offer, because of that, with prosperity and peace and tal. We also give leadership and diplomacy. We teach critical thinking, negotiating, dialogue, the power of dialogue, coming together. Meaning, if I disagree with you, don't become my enemy. I win you. Yeah, you win. I either win me or I win you over. And so we're creating a movement of people with a new mindset to defy. And you might ask me, what do you mean by mediocrity? Just like you said in the beginning, for me, I define mediocrity like poverty is mediocrity. Senseless wars is mediocrity. Ethnic tension is mediocrity. People need to go beyond that. And once people are prosperous, do you know that when society is prosperous, they have less fights. They really have less fights. They negotiate because they have something to lose. Once people are prosperous, they have a lot to cater for. So in short, we are looking for new African breed and training them to be to think generational, to think peace, to think unity, and embrace non-African vision. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks. And where can people find you?
Okay, people can find us on all social media platforms. Just go African Rebirth. Email is africanrebirth@gmail. African Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, like that. So we find and connect.
Thank you so much, Enoch. Again, we can go back and forth on this. We could talk forever about this because even here we have these conversations all the time. But obviously
Yeah.
we are limited on time. And thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing some of your work in the future, and obviously for representing us throughout the different ventures you're involved in. So wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Thank you so much, Kizito. Thank you for hosting me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye.
A message from the Government of Canada.
We thank Enoch for joining us live, and obviously, like if we have time, I feel like these are the conversations we could have and do these think tanks, and of course we have these on different networks here in Toronto, but definitely having this conversation on an ongoing basis and really supporting the work of young people like him is something that we want to continue to do. So bravo, Enoch, keep pushing, and all the best at school. And we look forward to seeing you as a leader in our community in the near future. In the meantime, I wanted to go back to a bit of news that we wanted to cover. So we're looking at a dispute that's taking place between the Mi'kmaq, which is a fishing right, a community, an indigenous community that is having a dispute, fishing right in southern Nova Scotia. Where this dispute has escalated this past week into violence, the destruction, and eventually into angry mob attacks on indigenous used fishing pounds. And they're saying that several hundred raptors trapped have either been destroyed or seized by the non-indigenous commercial fishermen in the past month. And two of the Mi'kmaq fishing boats were alleged to have been set on fire by the group. And they say that criticized for their alleged inactions to keep indigenous fishers and their property safe. The RCMP has come under the heavy fire over the past week. Obviously, this is something that we need to look at to keep. We're going to keep looking at it because I think a lot of the indigenous communities have seen a lot of these unfair treatments over the past, whatever, forever, like centuries. And so if we are continuing to have this happening, there is more to be done by the government and of course the authorities, including the RCMP. So we'll continue to follow this story and bring you some of the developments and updates from that. Besides that, tonight we also have another guest who is a student, a graduate student from York University, also an international student from the community of Gambia, and we are going to bring you his story right now. Mr. Osman joined us earlier, and we talked to him about different points, and that's what we wanted to bring you right after this.
Story of Africa. Africa is a donor continent with some shoots of development. Much of the continent is locked in the triple challenges of low economic growth, bad leadership, and unemployment. With some of the lowest literacy rates in the world and two of the three poorest countries in the world, Africa is challenged. But the continent is also home to 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world. This contradiction makes conditions to build a business very complex for the entrepreneurs in the continent, many of whom require simple business support, business intelligence and analytics, mentorship, and funding. We are building My Growth Fund as the first truly Pan-African impact funding venture capital firm in the continent. Our founder and board are passionate about the development of the next generation of African leaders. We believe entrepreneurship is the vehicle that will birth for us the next crop of leaders. And then Africa will truly rise. To find out about Vision One Fund, visit our website on www.mygrowthfund.co.za. This is our story. We exist for the entrepreneur.
All right, Osman, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be with us this afternoon. And just as we begin, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. As you know, we are the AfriCanadian Resource Center. We're working to connect African Canadians, provide resources, and show them what's going on in the community. And that's how we connected with you. Let the audience know who you are and what you do in the community.
Thank you very much, Kizoto. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Usman Conte. I am an educational consultant. I'm also the founder and CEO for BT Global Access. I graduated from York University this year, class of 2020, with a bachelor's degree in international development studies. I mainly specializes in policy, politics, and diaspora. So I have been engaged in youth activism for several years, both in school and outside school. So mainly my work centered around mobilization of young people within the African diaspora in Canada to unite around common identities, belonging, and advocate for advocate for more inclusive society. So I do this mainly through advocacy, civic engagement, mentorship, and entrepreneurship. So that will get me to why I established BT Global Access. So in short, this is who am I, and I'm so excited to be here.
That's incredible. So you are based out of the Gambian community. You're of Gambian origin, right?
Correct.
Tell me more about the Gambian community. So one of the fascinations that got me to even start this program is really wanting to understand more about every community. And I don't really know much about the Gambian community here in Toronto or in Canada. Tell us about like how many people are there? What do you guys like? What kind of activities are you involved in? Things like that.
Yeah, it is probably it's a very small community. We just yesterday ahead of this event, I spoke to the president of the Gambian Association. We have a community here, and we have an organization. Unfortunately, I'm part of the executive, but I'm not the president of the organization. But he was very pleased to be in this event, and I think he's aware of your network happening. So technically, there is no specific data available or that we know about how much Gambian community we have. So I think we have some more work to do in order to find data, but I think we must be close to around from 5 to 10,000. But you can quote me on that, because yesterday I was having the conversation with the president.
Trust me, we have the same issue. Like if you ask me, I'm from the Rwandan community, we have no idea. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find out these numbers and gather data, and really, because that's how we can actually do the effective advocacy, right? Even for you, you gotta know how many people are available in your community.
Yeah. So, but I think that's one of the work that the organization is working on, to collect specific data. So most of them, in fact, work in the maybe in the service industry. A lot of also other people works in the healthcare system. A lot of nurses as well, and some people also work in personal support. And technically, it's across the board. Manufacturing. Other peoples are going to school, so it's basically across the board. So many people come here as an immigrant in many years, since from the 1980s up to today. The number is growing, but it's not still that much, and others also are going to school as well.
Yeah, so you just answered my question. I was going to ask you, is it like a new, like first generation immigrants, or have they been here for a while? But I think you just answered my question. If they started coming in from the 80s, we're still looking at the first generation.
80s, yeah.
Okay. So now you are choosing to, obviously you're more looking towards the entrepreneurship. You know, you don't want to do the 9 to 5, which we are
Yeah.
promoting. What got
Yeah.
you to think, you know what, I'm going to study here, but when I finish education, I'm not going to try to find jobs. I'm going to try to create jobs. What got you to think that way?
Yeah, I think maybe two things for sure. One thing, my for sure my father is well, he's not an entrepreneur, but he works in social and he work in civil society as well. He was an award-winning person, United Nations award-winning in terms of advocacy and working in the civil society space. But coming to Canada, I just quickly recognized that, like, I've studied international development, but I think it emanated from just quickly recognizing that despite Canada being a multicultural country, lots of policies in place, for example, to support diversity or immigrant integration. But I realized that people of African descent or the newcomers like you and me, minority youth, still continue to face substantial barriers such as social exclusion, or poverty, marginalization, and racial discrimination. So this, I kind of feel that it's undoubtedly limit our access to economic and social opportunity. So then I ask myself, what's the way? What's the way forward? So we cannot just sit down and complain. So we must have to do something about it. So for me, the only way out is through maybe education and entrepreneurship. So I established this organization to support that cause, inspiring young people to get higher education, but at the same time, how to become entrepreneurs for themselves. So that's what it is.
Okay. So most of what you do with the organization, what is the name of your organization? The one that the consulting business one is the,
Yeah, it's called BT
what's
Global
the name of?
Access.
So with the
BT
BT
Global.
Global Access, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What are you looking to, maybe what are you looking to be during COVID, obviously, and I'm going to have a question on this, but
Mhm,
beyond COVID, what are you looking to
mhm.
be in the next like 5 years? What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so we just started this 6 months ago. We incorporated as a Canadian social enterprise and international student recruitment agency. So basically, our work centered around promoting Africa-Canada cooperation through education and intercultural links. So we work with accredited Canadian universities and colleges to recruit and provide admission for African students in good and financial standing. But also we encourage Canadian post-secondary students to study and live and build ties to African universities and non-profit sector in Canada. So it's basically finding a unique platform for young people who wants to travel, who wants to live abroad, to do the same. So in that way, we promote intercultural exchange between Canada and Africa. So I look forward to deepening the ties between these two continents in the near future.
Amazing, and definitely we look forward to seeing what you're doing, because part of what you're doing as well is to try and connect our different. Obviously, for us, we're more focused on Canada, like
Mhm.
connecting our organizations, individual leaders, and businesses. But working with or looking at some of the work that you're talking about, we would really love to connect with you in the future, because there's a lot that we think we can do together. Obviously, what we are doing here, our success here spells the success for our people back home. And that's something we
Mhm.
want to promote. We want to promote building legacies, living legacies, making sure that it's not all about getting education and getting a job. Because I think a lot of the time when we depart, we depart with those jobs. But if you leave something like a building, a structural entity, that's something that you can leave for your community. And so that's really something we're looking to do. And that's why we're trying to find as many people, including yourself, that are doing work in the community. So we can actually
Mhm.
almost like map out everything for people who are looking to work with you, who can actually access the resources that we're developing. My question for you maybe is, um, for the being an international student and having
Mhm.
obviously dealing with international students now in your work, what is the
Mhm.
main challenge that you see them facing in Canada?
I think in terms of the COVID-19, we kind of recognize that the international student mobility is significantly impacted, for example, by COVID-19 and all the uncertainties surrounding, let's say, global travel restriction, suspension of visa operation, and then even disruption of international student recruitment, admission, health and safety concerns. So that's why, for example, our organization launched what we call virtual cafe dialogue. So this is sort of a free online platform where we bring together Canada's leading experts and professionals in international education and post-secondary education sector to discuss and answer some of the burning questions or concerns about international students. So we work with universities. Our previous event, we have a representative from York University, from Seneca College, and immigration experts, and just to name a few of them. So one of the issues, for example, is the issue of mental health. COVID-19 has been impactful. It's affected everybody. So imagine having international students here who don't know a lot of families, and they're living in a new culture. So the issue of mental health, it's a big problem facing them. Even the issue of housing, housing and support in terms of this COVID-19 are all issues that are affecting international students right now.
Yeah, because I'm thinking for many of these students who come here, obviously they're receiving the support from their parents back home, but COVID has hit everybody globally. And
Yeah.
for most of the ones that are here, and I'm talking about Canada, but I'm thinking it's an issue globally.
Yeah.
If the money is not coming from home, how are they surviving?
Yeah, that's the big problem. So that's why even at the beginning of this COVID, when we have one of those forums, we were, because initially international students were not covered by some of the support that the government provided to international students, but eventually some of the work that some of advocates are doing for international students, at least we're able to provide some few support to international students. And the government also did some well, at least relaxing some of the laws governing international students. For example, international students in Canada are only allowed to work for like 20 hours during school hours. But now some of those laws have been relaxed, so they've been allowed to work, let's say, for as much as hours they want. So that's one of the things that we have to thank the government for, at least helping or responding to the needs of international students. So that's a very useful one as well.
I really appreciate that, because again, some of this information is always coming in as news for us, because we know for sure that the government here in Canada, they've done a lot, they've tried a lot for the people here in Canada, but for international students, we still have that blind spot as Canadians. And so we appreciate you sort of putting a spotlight on that. And we really wanted to do that even by inviting you. We do have another guest today that's talking about the same issues for international students, because we as Africans, and by the way, I was also looking at a report that says that we only bring in 6% of international students compared to the rest of the country, or for the rest of the world here in Canada. What do you think about that stats when you hear that?
Yeah, in fact, I think that was one of the motivation for me to start that. I think if you're following politics, for example, I follow politics a lot. About 2 years ago, whatever, we have, just to give you a little bit context, like just last year alone, we have more than 500,000 international students that come to Canada, and they contributed like $20 billion into the Canadian economy. But most of those internationals mainly comes from India and China, which is impressive. But then some of the requirements that we were looking at, mobility, youth population, affordability, and stuff like that. And Africa, Africa has one of the largest youthful population in the world, and in the next decade, it will surpass both China and India. So when I look at that statistic and realize that, out of that, let's say 500,000, less than 6% are Africa, then I say, okay, I want to participate, or I want to make sure that these statistics change. So that's why
improve,
improve for have more African students, have access to quality education or whatever opportunities that is offered to any other citizens in the world. So that's why we are putting in place this mechanism to make sure educational opportunity is provided to a lot of African students to come to Canada.
And another thing too that the current government did was more from the previous administration, but the same government.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it is the same administration. But my point is,
Yeah.
they now want the young people, specifically Africans who come to study here, if they can
Mm-hmm.
stay, they are really encouraging you guys to stay. Where previously, a lot of African students were being, yes, they would come and study, but they were like always, they would have to ask for permanent residency, but it wasn't something that was guaranteed. Now it's encouraged for you, especially if you're young, to stay here. Now, I think that also takes away the issue for many of our African students that were coming before, or the reason that they're giving to why we're not giving as many Africans the visas to come and study is because they're saying that a lot of them come here and seek asylum. Like I saw like a number for many of the Nigerian students who come here and seek asylum as opposed to come and study and then go back. So I think removing that and allowing students to come and study, and if they choose to stay, they can stay. If they choose to go back home, obviously they can do that. I think that will allow, and this is from the current government, that will allow for that other problem or that other issue that the government was putting in place to be removed. So we can all be accepted based on our merits or maybe the economical status, because I think that's also another factor, as you mentioned, mobility, ability to come here and stay and afford to stay here. So I think that's something that might help in helping to increase the amount of students that are coming from Africa.
Yeah. I think also one thing also we have to understand that we live in a global. One of the things that I think young people are really struggling with is the issue of, let's say, identity and belongings. For example, we are a generation that wants to travel, a generation that wants to be global citizens, a generation that wants to experience different people and different cultures. But the society itself is making that very hard. For example, having borders or strict immigration policies in place that provided a lot of challenges for young people to move for mobility and to seek opportunities. So having these policies in place, for example, making it very easy for young people to get access to higher education if they can afford it, and then also having a positive pathway or a legal pathway to stay if they choose to come to Canada. I think it's a really good thing, and that will take away a lot of the pressures of young people taking, let's say, other means of illegal means to travel to Canada or any other parts in the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good thing that the government is doing, and then we really encourage young people, African young people, to make good use of those opportunities as well.
Absolutely, and we really commend the Canadian government for having done that, and obviously we encourage them to continue, because we know there is also racism involved in that, because when you look at a number 6%, come on, it makes no sense. But we know that's the work that we have to continue to do, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't want to keep you too long. I just want to ask you maybe one question regarding COVID and how is your work affected during COVID? And obviously, as a student, also, if you just graduated, that means you've gone through a bit of that. How has COVID affected you and your community? And maybe you could talk about the community, but also your business.
Oh yeah. So now it's everything. Well, it's provided for me two opportunities. Like first, it provided at least opportunity for us to at least launch this project. Maybe without COVID, because we get access to a lot of resources or a lot of experts that for sure, maybe if not COVID, might be difficult to have them on board or for them to join the initiative. So that means we have a lot of their time helping us initiate it. So I think that was a good thing. But the second thing also, it's about it's the COVID itself make us think twice as a community in terms of what the future hold for us, in terms of digitalization, in terms of the more creative of what we can do. So right now, what's going on, we know that things are very tough. So it helps organizations to adjust to what we can do creatively. So in terms of making use of information technology, be creative of how we deliver services to the people. But in terms of, for example, as I said in the beginning, it affected mobility for international students and a lot of uncertainties when it comes to the visa application, because most of the visa offices are closed right now. But the good news is like the Canadian government is opening that to international students on the 20th of this month. So they will be able to come and travel to Canada if their schools are designated learning areas and they meet all the COVID requirements. So they can, and then when they come to Canada, they could quarantine for 14 days. So that's a pretty good thing. But it also affected so much of their mental health and stability. So, and then, but a lot of also supports are available to communities as well, both even our organization and our community level, trying to reach out to one another to support each other, to find out what we need and then provide those support for us. So I think that it's really bringing the community together in one part, but also help or force organization to be more creative and to be more innovative in terms of how they deliver services and programs to young people. So I think these are pretty two things.
That's amazing. I like your perspective. You're more like the idea of, okay, we've gone through COVID, but it was an opportunity. And it was for us also, because we had a lot of programs that were supposed to happen, and then COVID hit, and we were like, okay, so we can't do this. Now what do we do? And I think that's the mindset for many of our young people like yourself to say, you know what, yes, this is not happening, but we could do something else. So I like your mindset on that. And so basically, if anybody wants anything to do with international students, learn more about the information, learn more about where to go for support, should they come to you?
Oh yeah, they could get to us because, as I said, we started 6 months ago. Our website is www.btglobalaccess.com, or they can check us on Instagram or Facebook at btglobalaccess.com, or they can email us info@btglobalaccess.com. So we have designated or certified immigration consultants and lawyers if they need any in terms of support, visa application, work permit, and study permit. We're gonna help them doing that. So if they are abroad as well, they wanted to come to Canada, we can help them with that application, helping them choose the school. Not only helping them choose the schools, but also help them to integrate into the Canadian society, like helping them even registration, integration, mentorship events, even as opening bank accounts, or helping them just to, not because they come and then we just leave them on their own, but help them how to settle down into the community as well.
That's amazing. I'm really gonna take it upon myself to, at least the ones that I know, the people that are looking for information, I'll definitely be sending them your way, because I know those are the information that a lot of our people come here and go seek elsewhere, and they don't really get all of the information. So I think having someone like you would help. Other than that, the only other thing I would like to ask you is, let's get your president on board. I would like to come and visit you guys when COVID is done, because right now we're not able to visit the communities that we had previously planned, but I would really love to come and visit, and hopefully you guys can take us around and show us what the Gambian community is doing in the community.
Yeah, for sure. I spoke to him yesterday about you, about this event, this interview, and about AfriCanadian, and he's really willing to do that. So you can maybe I can text you his contacts. You can just link up with him, and then he has an event coming, COVID event coming very soon. So he'll be excited to talk to you about that.
Oh, absolutely, and we would love to cover it. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to that connection. And again, we're looking forward to working with you in the future, and we wish you all the best, by the way. You know, as a newcomer, you doing your thing, it makes us all feel good, and we really want to see more of this for our African Canadian brothers and sisters.
Oh, you too, man. Thank you very much, and you're doing an amazing job. Keep it up.
Appreciate it. So have a good one, brother.
Yeah, you too, bro.
A coronavirus is a type of virus that can infect the respiratory tract, meaning the nose, mouth, throat, sinuses, or lungs. There are many types of coronaviruses, and most cause only mild illness, such as the common cold. But some coronaviruses can cause severe illness. The most likely way people can become infected is by droplets that contain the virus. These droplets carry the virus into the air and can enter through the nose, mouth, throat, and lungs of a person who is within 6 feet or 2 meters. The virus infects the lungs, causing the lungs to become inflamed. The alveolar sacs have to be healthy for the body to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Infection of the virus causes damage to the cells of the lungs and triggers an inflammatory reaction. Fever may develop. With severe inflammation, inflammatory fluid fills the lungs. This reduces the function of the alveoli, resulting in coughing and difficulty breathing. The oxygen level in the blood may decrease. In some people who become severely ill, other organs may be affected, such as the kidneys or the heart.
So today I don't have a challenge for anyone. I wanted to talk to international students. So as you saw today, we covered a group of international students who were here in Toronto from York University and from Toronto University. And I know there is a lot of other young students, young people who either are looking to come to Canada to study or who are already here that are looking for maybe a device, maybe to understand how the culture works. And I'm talking to you whether you are here in Toronto or somewhere in PEI or Vancouver, or wherever you are. One of the things that I've noticed with many of our Africans when we come here is the challenges are huge. Obviously, we're coming to a new world, a new culture, and yes, we understand that it's a multicultural community, but one of the things that you'll find when you come to Canada is that every community it's almost like every community has a corner where they meet. And for the African community, I think we find that challenge of meeting in our own corners, like for example, as Rwandans, and Ethiopians, Somalians, but also we also have to come together as Africans. So one of the challenges that or one of the advice that I would give you is find people in your corner so that way they can help you enter into these other worldly places, because there is a lot of places you can sort of benefit if you're a part of, like get into networks. Really, like if you're an engineer student, please, I beg you, find networks, be a part of those networks, because you would benefit greatly when you do graduate. Just find a way to be a part of that experience from the time you're still in school. Don't wait until you graduate. And another thing too, and this is for people who are still choosing to find a career. I think a lot of the time we sort of spend so much time worrying about what would someone think, what would my parents think, what would anyone think. My advice to you, take a week, take a month, I don't care. Take a year or two and find space and be alone and really find that thing that you want to do. Don't allow someone else to tell you what you should do. You always find yourself. So I'm not worried about that. I know you will do that. But what I wanted to do is really encourage you that there is so much opportunities. There's so much networks available. I just want you to be a part of it. Don't just focus in the books and forget about the people that will help you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So definitely find a network, but also remember those values. As Africans, we come here sometimes, we don't really we don't put so much weight on our values. We don't put so much values on our ancestry roots. We don't even understand it. Take time to understand that. Take time to understand who you are, where you people are from. And then when you meet with other people, let's say you're sitting on the table and you have a Caucasian and you have an Asian and you have these different people and you have an African yourself, make sure that you give them something that is unique and different, because you're unique and different. And so I encourage you to embrace your roots. Don't come here and just be like, oh no, Africa is all that. I did that. I lost myself for many years and now I'm going back and I'm like, if I knew, And so find that, and if you can't, really look for mentors. I guess that's my last encouragement or my last advice to you. Find mentors. There is so many elders in our communities that have knowledge, and we need to find them, and we need to sit with them. We need to understand what they know, because if they go on and we don't get that opportunity to learn from it, then I think we've lost so much. So let's do that. Let's find those elders. Let's find the people who know. Sit with them. Join those networks and have those values with us. So that's my message to most of the international students here. And then besides that, of course, Send out if you have any questions, you want to know more about how to come to Canada to study here. If you're in Canada and you want more resources, you want more tools, and you want to know how to get it, reach out to us. We'll guide you to the right people, and if we don't, we'll also do the same research that we're asking you to do. But at the end of the day, we encourage you and we're proud of you, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future.